Today's goat challenge, 1/4x1, 2-inch slit, 2-inch slot. Okay, so mark in your center line, if I can see. Take your ruler, 2 inches, 2 inches, 1 inch, 2 inches, and then center punch, 2 inch. 1 inch, 2 inch, center punch it, so that I don't lose my marks. It's in there nice and deep. Okay. I'm going to walk a line so that I've got something to follow. Hopefully I'll do a better job of it than I did in the previous demo. Light's actually changed in here a little bit. Nice. Well, to the far side of the chisel there. This side. Come on, you dirty heifer. Do it, got something there. And now, sling it in the fire, run my lines to see how it goes.
Did you do the other side too?
Nah, just the one side's fine. You could put it on both sides if you wanted, but not gonna bother. And there's my chisel. I've also got the cutting plate so I don't mar up the anvil. I'm going to give that a little lap on the grinder. Get it good and key. I like to use the soft area here to clean this. That way I just get the subtlest of apple seed. This is a really heavily worn 120, I believe. Oh, what? Just bring it back to edge a little bit. So it should be good. Shouldn't be too much to this. It should be fairly easy, just trying to get into your rhythm, hold into your trough. Run down. When you start getting that cool bit, make sure you're on the plate. And then when you're doing the slit, just kind of work through that center section and then come out on those outer corners and really focus on those outer corners so they come to the center punch marks. Should be fine. Should go fairly well. I suppose I should use paratons. It's really tempting when you're doing small pieces like this that are kind of hanging out the fire to go use your glove because you've got a glove on. I have surprised myself more than once and grabbed a hold of a rather warm thing with a leather glove on, and the leather glove shrinks and then kind of holds itself on your hand, and then, ooh, that's a good noise. And then burns the hell out of you because you've dumped all that thermal mass into it. And also, you know, these are my MIG welding gloves. Just to give you an idea, from before, I got a little bit of a scorch through the glove just from the steam of the moisture that's in the leather. So gloves, yes, they're awesome, but they can really lead you into a false sense of security, cause some mischief. Alrighty. So I can see my lines fairly well. They are jaunty. But hopefully I'll clean those up as I go. Your layout line really is pretty important. So if you can, do the best layout you can. I kind of cheat a little bit sometimes on these things, which I should not. Roll up into that center punch. There we go. One more there. Right. So I've got a pretty good line laid in there for that first pass. Go get it hot again, take another run at it. Be a good boy, use my tongues. Also have that behemoth piece of 2-inch square from my last goat challenge. I really want to revisit that, so I figured whilst the forge was hot, I'll get it nice and warm again and see if I can break another tool in it.
And just so you all know, that was the punch all the holes in one heat challenge. And basically what he did is he got a bunch of different sizes of material and tried to punch holes in it in one heat, like so. And he managed to do all except for the, what was it, 2-inch?
2-inch, I think the
2
largest
inch.
I did was 1.5 or maybe 1 3/4.
Yeah, and
but the 2-inch
he thinks,
I
though,
missed.
he thinks that he can do it, but he needed to lay out his material first. As we all know, good layout matters, so he's going to try it again.
Yeah, I missed the alignment on my holes by, I'm going to say 1/2 inch. I was way off. So, notice how I'm angling up in that corner. Really bite in. And pop that plate under. Start that split. A little bit of angle to my chisel. And take another heat on that. It started to split open very nicely. Shinier area. But it's a little tight, so get some more heat in it, allow that material to move. Though you can shear out the bottom of the cut, you need the heat in the material to allow the pieces to flare away from each other. So it's as much about them flowing away from each other as you coming down as anything. So if you don't have that heat down those edges, the edges can't move away, even though you can actually get that piece to fracture at the bottom. Be careful grabbing a hold of that thing, it will cause you misery. Usually what happens is you do all your splitting or whatever it might be, and you've got that plate sitting on the anvil, and you're like, yeah, I did really well, I didn't do anything stupid, I only smacked my hand once, and burn the heck out of yourself. The aluminium ones will really do that to you as well. So aluminium, brass, copper, bronze, they all have a fabulous ability to return heat back to you a whole lot quicker than it seems plausible. So it's a high conductivity of the material, also allows it to dump back to you really quickly. So, same with silver. Silver's another joyous one that will do that to you. Roll up. Off that tool. A little bit more. Really get that nose in on that chisel. There we go. So this, you can actually see it's kind of like gusseted out quite nicely in the bottom there, at the center punch point. And we get one more little whack on it. And having that little bit of a radius on the edge of that material, on the chisel itself, helps with the radius down there. If you've got like a really hard, sharp corner, you'll wind up with like a little bit of, such a scale there, you'll get a little bit of a square corner cut in there. So that's relatively simple, attractive split, not too messy in the crotch. And now I'm gonna go and do this. this out the way so I don't cause myself mischief. And just to give you an idea, I can hear it sizzling on something. That's hot enough to cause a little misery. So. Remember, wet and not steaming is the desired position. That's still steaming slightly, which means it's still a little toasty. So this is kind of a fun one because I've got to create a slit and then finish it out, and then clean between. So it's basically double what I just did because you've got to get the two outer edges, and hopefully it'll pop enough this way to allow the tool to bottom in. So you've got to keep it fairly warm to allow those legs to move. And I should get like a nice little keyhole. It's probably not really awkward, I just realised that. Anyway.
Everything about blacksmithing is a little awkward if you think about it the wrong way.
There we are. So I'm going to get my line halfway laid in there, see how it's coming out. Not too deep yet, just want to get it felt in. You'll notice when you're doing this that the 1/4x1, when your hand is right over it like this, it does blitz quite a lot of heat into you. So just be aware of that, and don't push yourself too hard, because you might get to that point where you're like, okay, that's enough heat. You back out the way, but there is still plenty of thermal mass in your glove, and that moisture, especially, we've got a nice wet day here in Atlanta. The moisture level's a little high, so there's a lot of kind of swampiness going on in the glove, and suddenly you get that superheated steam just getting blasted into your body, and your skin had already reached that point where it was quite satisfied with its excessive overheating, and you start flaying layers off. I have done it once or twice. It's quite common. Don't do it barehanded. It just goes wrong too easily. And if you have those like leather gardening type gloves with the fabric cowl on the back end, the cowl will burst into flames on you, especially if you've got like a little wispy thread. Jess has got a big smile on her face because she knows she's done it.
No, I watched somebody else do it once though, and it was.
You just watched them.
I did. I just watched
evil.
them. It was it was amusing. Once it started looking dangerous, I did tell them.
You just get a big bucket of water on
You know, you're a little bit on fire there, my friend.
Yeah.
Just a touch.
Yeah, watch out for frayed cotton. If you've got like a little hole in your pants and it's frayed cotton, you get the smallest spark on that, and the next thing you know, your leg's on fire.
I think I've seen that once before as well.
Yeah, I've burnt the bottom off my pants, especially when you're like torch cutting or grinding, something like that.
You get a little sparkle somewhere.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, it's a forest fire, you've lost Oregon, California.
Oh God, it's too soon.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Is it ever? Starting at the root, but not really concerning myself with cutting all the way into the tip. I'm just trying to get that bottom to kind of get real close. Now I can roll a little bit at the tip. Take one more push at that. I'm not really rushing. I also don't want to split through and flatten up the face of my chisel on the anvil. So when you cut through your material onto the face of the anvil, two things can happen. Both of them are quite undesirable. One of them is you put a big gash in the face of your anvil. The other one is you flatten the tip of your chisel. Both of which have to be dealt with. Putting the big gash in your anvil is really tricky to fix. You know, you don't want weld it, because that just ruins the steel entirely. And you might be able to peen it in, but that gouge is in there eternally. At least your chisel you can resharpen. So just use a cut plate. We actually used to have saddles which went the whole way across. So I probably had a 2-inch cape hanging off the far side. They were pretty good. Stops them from bouncing around. But these were back plates from backplate offcuts from some handles that we made. Alright, let's see if we can get this to split. A little bit of an angle, you notice. Starting to force that roll in. Yeah, there we go. Got that cold appearing at the bottom. Quite nice. Once it starts splitting, you just kind of roll with it. That's pretty good. So I'm going to take another heat so everything gets nice and hot so I can get really right up into the crotch of the split. Need to get one little more nip there, but apparently, let's give that a little flan. So I'm going to set my material up in a nice position for my next heat so that I'm not fighting with the curvature. Let's see how that lays. Should be pretty good. Make your life easy, prep your material. If you know that you've got to put some weird curve in it or something like that, or you've got to get it straight, prep your material before you come out to the fire so that when you are at the anvil, you can just get on with business. So often I see, especially new smiths, they pull a piece of steel out at the end of at the beginning of their heat. Things like a damn banana. And they're there going, oh, I've got to straighten it out, blah, blah, blah. And by the time they finish straightening everything out, they lost 90% of the heat and they may as well go back to the fire. So, that in mind, we say this all the time when we're doing bladesmithing, straighten it out sufficiently at the end of your heat so that you can just get on with the work. And don't worry about having things perfectly straight, because if you're hammering it in deep enough and doing the work in an appropriate manner, the material's going to go, even if it's bent up. And okay, it's coming up at you like this, just give it a quick slap, keep on going. Quit mucking around, get on with work, lad. What's wrong with you?
How many times did you hear that when you were
yeah, enough. Mr. Leg was hilarious. He'd just come in, I swear, he'd just walk into a room and the first thing he would scream was, get it hot. And, well, I get it. We were probably not, so... Or, you and I know as good as any is, if you just shout 3 or 4 standard things, your left hand is raising or your non-dominant hand is raising, there's somebody up there out, and everyone else is feeling guilty because they know we did it.
You got a class of 10 people, at least half of them are going to be doing the thing that you holler them not to do.
Get it hot, that's like primary. And either quit hitting it so hard or quit tickling it. Those are the other two. Alrighty. So I'm going to come straight in at the back here, get that primary spread at the rear. I want to get that crotch to really come in nicely. There we go. And then once I've still got that heat, come up to the top one. So I've got a little bit of a forward roll in my chisel to get that energy right in. Lovely. That's pretty solid. Right. Don't really want to do much else with that. I think that in itself is quite a interesting little exercise. You kind of get to understand that whilst you're working in this bit, if this isn't hot, these are not capable to spread and allow you to get access there, right? Right? And the same back here, you've got to make sure you've got heat in this zone to allow the rotation of this material to come out, because this is plastic flow, not magic. Right? So you've got to allow that material to flow, because you are splitting it and you are basically bifurcating it and allowing it to flow out of the way of your tool. Okay, cool. Have a whirl with that and see how it goes. And I'm going to go muck with this giant chunk of steel and see if I can get a hold of it.